So this right here, believe it or not, is the reason can't live off grid. And I'll get more into that in a bit. As you know, Carolyn and I have been living here, this will be our 3rd year. We're coming up on our 3rd year in, I guess, March 1st. So this is late December. So we only got a few more months and we'll be here 3 years. Now, as you know, we started out in our camper. We were nomads and we bought the property. I've explained all this before. We took the truck camper off the back of the truck, the homemade truck camper, set it down on the ground, and we built our tiny house. And we moved up here almost a year after we got here. It was January. Like I said, we got here in March, so that was almost a year. It was the middle of winter. We had really wet firewood. It was a pretty tough winter to get through that first year, but after that, things got a lot easier. We got the well fixed, so now we have water all the time. But this comes at a cost. We had to minimize our lives, and so we have to do without a lot of stuff and modern technologies that most people take for granted. I watch TV every night, Netflix or Amazon Prime. Right now I'm watching X-Files. I mean, how old is X-Files? Now, I will admit I didn't watch all the episodes. I watched in the 90s, but when it got into the 2000s, I didn't watch them anymore. They had Agent Doggett, and I didn't find him as fascinating. I'm glad I'm watching them again. I really like it. I don't get to watch the new TV shows, and I couldn't even tell you what the latest and greatest movies are. I know that I would like to see Top Gun, but I don't, not going to. So what I did was I tried to piece as many pieces of YouTube videos together that I could to get an idea of what it was all about. I do know that when we started traveling as nomads, one of the hardest things I had to do was get rid of the TV. But it didn't take long for me to adjust to that. And with Netflix nowadays and Amazon Prime, it gives us entertainment. But I guess if we didn't have it, we still have books. We could get books, go to the library, and yes, there's still libraries. There's one just not too far from us here. Rome, as you know, probably failed primarily because of its technology. I mean, they had running water, aqueducts, and they got lazy. And they didn't want to work anymore. So eventually they started wanting free things. And Rome failed after a while because there was nobody to do the work. So everybody wanted all the technology, but nobody wanted to provide it. We live on 1,000 watts of solar panels, and that powers our refrigerator, our tablet. I have a tablet for YouTube videos. Runs a couple fans, a couple cell phones. Over the cold spell, the electric really depleted because the batteries, they don't do as well in the cold. So we had to take all the meat out of the freezer and put it in our cooler and take it outside so it would stay frozen, so we could shut the refrigerator off because we needed to run another fan to help keep the water thawed out. I've said many times, this is our job. I mean, I make YouTube videos and that provides us with some income. So we don't have to go work for an employer anymore. This is what we do. But this cold spell got me to thinking about some of the videos I've watched and thinking about people I've known in the past. I remember one time it got really cold like this last cold spell we had. One of the women I worked with, she says, our dishwasher has froze up. We don't have any water at the sink. We still have some water in the bathtub, but apparently their sink and their dishwasher was up against the outside wall, and so the pipes froze. So she said, we're eating out until that thaws out because I'm not doing dishes in a bucket or anything like that. And that's the kind of spoiled that our society has gotten into. We're just so spoiled that we're not going to do anything beyond our technological comfort level. One of the things that I get in the comment section, Carolyn does laundry by hand. She has a plunger. She's got these 2 sinks over here. And in the wintertime, she has a bucket. She takes a bucket inside. And that way she can even have hot water. When we do it outside, I just fill these from the well, but in there she gets the water heater. And she sits there and she actually counts out how many times she's plunged. And she figures 600 plunges is 10 minutes, 60 seconds. And she says, okay, that's a 1 wash cycle in a wash machine. But I've heard people in the comment section, there is absolutely no way I'm giving up my wash machine. Every wash machine I've ever had has went out, and so you got to go out and buy another one. And so people will complain, oh, we don't get paid enough, or I don't have enough money, or things are just too expensive. But they're never willing to sacrifice anything, especially their comfort level or their laziness level, so they can save some money. One of the things that's regularly discussed on this channel is firewood. We've got 15 years worth of it. And I hear all the time, there is absolutely no way I'm going to go out and cut firewood. And they always have an excuse, but they'll be the first ones to complain when fuel prices go up. To me, the firewood is just not a big deal. I absolutely thoroughly enjoy. Not only do I just enjoy the heat and the flame, but there is something primal about it. It's like, making my own heat. And of course, we live in this tiny house, which makes heating the house even that much easier. A quart of firewood a year. My fuel cost, even if I had to buy the firewood, would be about $200 a year if I was buying it. I remember I was spending $300 a month on heating costs when I was buying heat from the utility companies. It was 800 square foot house is what it was. So we have these big storms that come around, like in Texas a few years ago, and now we got one in New York, and you always hear people dying from it. And I wonder, of course, why they're dying, what happened. We can all assume, well, they didn't have heat. Let's just say they didn't have heat. And you wonder, are they willing to think outside the box, or are they so spoiled and lazy by their technology that they can't even imagine doing anything else? And so they do dumb things. I know down in Texas, there were people who were going out to their car in the garage, starting the car up, and dying from carbon monoxide poisoning. Instead of trying to figure out how to stay warm without doing something dangerous, or even having a plan. Now, I know that my channel, people are going to say in the comment section, oh yeah, got to be prepared. I'm not talking about being prepared. Far from it. I'm talking about being able to live without. Are you willing to do what it takes? And Carolyn has done these things. I mean, she's had an old mobile home. She was telling me a story. One time they lost their heat and they had to get a little pup tent. They had a little pup tent or a tent. And they wrapped the tent up in blankets, set it out on the living room floor, and they were able to sit in there, kind of like a family, and it kept moderately warm just from their body temperature, which makes sense. This house will heat up 10 degrees when Carolyn and I are in it. So the smaller the confinement, the easier it is to heat. And so the family, she had 3 kids, herself, living in a little tent, when they had a heating issue. That's the kind of outsider thinking that we got to have. But most people just can't do that. Just like I told you, the lady, I am not going to do dishes in the bathtub or anything like that. We're going to go out to eat until my water pipes unfreeze. Now, another aspect of this is people talk about their health issues and they just can't do these things. They can't do laundry by hand because of whatever health issue they have. Well, what do you think folks did back in the Great Depression when they aged and they had to do things? They just had to do it. The problem with our health, in my mind, in this society, is our diet. I've said this many times. If you want to get healthy, change your diet. Now, Carolyn and I are carnivores, and there are many people in the comment section who just absolutely disagree with that. You can't be just a carnivore, you have to have vegetables. My argument is vegetables, all vegetables, have poison in them. That's how they protect themselves. And it is known now, studies have been conducted, that vegetables have a chemical in it that causes inflammation in your joints. So you have sore joints, your back hurts, shoulders hurt. You have all these aches and pains because you're eating vegetables. Even if you're going to argue with me and say that, no, I'm going to eat my vegetables, that's fine. Then get off carbohydrates. But people will argue with me there too. No, you got to have carbohydrates, provide your energy. And your body has adapted to one of 2 things, fat energy or sugar energy. Most Americans' bodies are adapted to sugar. So when I tell you to switch over to a fat diet, you can Google this, you can get on YouTube. There's this one doctor, she is very professional. I watch this other doctor, he cusses sometimes and he says a lot. But there's this doctor on there and she talks about a keto diet, low carb diet, and she talks about the same things. That if you have a fat diet, that you're going to get healthier. Now, science has told us that we are not allowed to eat fats, it's bad for us. Well, they're also lying to you. It's easier to produce garbage and sell it to the masses than it is to raise a cow. So they want you to eat the garbage. Today's food pyramid, I think they actually have Snicker bars in there and sugared cereals. That's not healthy for you. So if you want to get healthy and live like the people in the Great Depression, eat like my grandpa did. My grandpa ate meat and green beans. Now I know I said no vegetables, but back then they didn't know better. But he didn't eat any carbohydrates. Get away from the junk food. Get away from the alcohol, because alcohol is nothing but carbohydrates, and you'll get better. That way you can live in a minimalistic lifestyle. And when things go bad, you'll be ready. One of the things that came up the other day in my comment section was, can't live off grid. There is no way I would want to have stiff clothes without fabric softeners and all that hanging on a line. Well, I would have think that a lot of people in my comment section are going to say, there's nothing better than line dried clothes. If you really think about it, it smells good and all that kind of stuff. To me, I don't care. Clean clothes, hey, great. But there's other people who get upset about having clothes out on the line because all the bugs are going to be in it. You just got all these bugs. Well, shake them out before you put them in the basket or fold them up and put them in your drawer. But in today's society, we have to have a dryer. And a dryer is the biggest waste of electric or gas or energy that I can even think of. It is useless. You're trying to evaporate the water that you just put into your clothes. What sense does that make? Well, it's convenience. My uncle told me one time that he felt like that Rome collapsed because of technology. Well, back then I didn't understand that, but it makes sense now. We are collapsing. This country is collapsing. We are so spoiled that we don't even want to go to work anymore. I think there's like 7 million young working men who don't want to get a job. They're sitting at home playing video games in their mom's basement. So if you're not producing the dryer or the wash machine, how are you going to be able to buy it? We are so lazy that we have to have the wash machine, but now we're so lazy that we're not even going to make it. So we rely on other people to make it for us. And in this case, other countries. So eventually we will collapse because of our laziness. Here's what I'm suggesting. We just had this huge cold front come in. People are dying from it, but people will not make adjustments in their life to adapt. So go into your breaker box right now and shut off that main breaker. Figure out what you can live without. So if you click this up next box, take you to a video where I was talking about Congress just made a new law about firewood. So if I can inspire you to disconnect so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.